So, welcome to Kenya in February 2021. My name is Toby German. I'm from Pangolin and I am here for two very good reasons. The first one is I want to see how Kenya is dealing with welcoming guests back on safari in the middle of the COVID pandemic. And secondly, I want to know what is Kenya really like in between the rains. Now, traditionally, most people come to Kenya for the migration, which happens in between around about August and September every year. So I'm here in February, in between the long and the short rains. The short rains are generally November-ish every year, and then the long rains happen a little bit later on into the new year, around about March, April. So I'm here in between the rains, and I want to see what is Kenya like, and how can I persuade my clients to come here and not just do the migration. So let's get to this, shall we? So on this trip, I have travelled into Nairobi airport. From there, I went north up to Samburu. Samburu is a big favourite of ours. It's a 1 hour flight north of Nairobi, very different to the Masai Mara, and we often send guests there after they've been to the Masai Mara. From there, I travelled from Saruni, Samburu, where I was staying. I went up to a camp that I've never visited before, which is called Saruni Rhino, where I went and did some rhino tracking on foot. After that, I went down to the Masai Mara to go and see what it is like without all the wildebeest and zebra milling around. And then after that, I came down here to a secret location, which I'm going to reveal at the end of this video. Now, I believe that where I am now in the next couple of years is going to become one of the most talked about wildlife photography destinations. So stay tuned to the end of the video. Make sure you're subscribed as well, as I'm going to be sharing a lot of content about this amazing place. Okay, so getting here. I flew from Cape Town via Addis Ababa into Nairobi. Now, Nairobi and Addis Ababa in Ethiopia are becoming real contenders for primary African hubs. There are amazing routes in and out. You can fly Dubai, USA, Australia, I believe you can do on Ethiopian. So they are becoming primary hubs into East Africa and then also continuing down into Southern Africa to Botswana as well. So really, when you're planning your safari, please do have a look at these as potential routes on Ethiopian Airlines and Kenya Airlines. They're both very, very good airlines. The next thing I wanted to really see for myself was how easy is it to transit through these international airports, and I was pleasantly surprised. They really got it down. So when you arrive, obviously you've got to have your PCR test. In fact, they probably won't let you on the plane at your point of embarkation unless you've got a PCR test which is no longer than 72 hours old. So you arrive with that. You have to do an e-visa for Kenya. Now this applies to everyone. Traditionally, you didn't need it if you were coming from South Africa, but now you do need to have an e-visa. It's a really simple online process. If you're coming from Europe, USA, South America, Australia, you're going to have to pay for your visa. It's anywhere between $50 and $80, but the process is very simple. You then have to also fill in a passenger locator form, which then gives you a barcode or a QR code on your phone. So when you arrive at Nairobi airport, they scan that code. They then know you've arrived. They capture all of the information of your arrival, where you're staying, what airline you came in on, what seat you were sitting on, for example, and they pull all that together. So you have to get your ducks in a row. You still have to have your yellow fever certificate, which is the same for everywhere in East Africa. And I presume later on they will ask you if you've been vaccinated as well. I don't know what the rules are going to be on that, but at the moment, you don't have to prove you've been vaccinated. Fish eagle. I'm going to tell you where I am in a minute. So when you're in Kenya and you're flying backwards and forwards to the various safari destinations, you are using small charter airlines like Safari Link or Air Kenya. I was using Safari Link. Super impressed with their COVID protocols. You arrive, temperature checks, hand sanitization. You're also checked again before you get onto the plane. They sanitize the plane in between the stops. Very, very, very organized. Normally, I would have been able to fly from Samburu straight to the Mara, but obviously there's a bit of a limited service on at the moment, so I was using Wilson Airport as a hub for most of my travels. But again, very simple, very organized, and a really easy way to get around. So my first stop was Saruni Samburu. It's a real favourite of ours, this place. I've got to give it to Ricardo and his team. Their COVID protocols were exemplary. When we arrived, obviously temperature checks, hand sanitization, all of their staff, when they come back off a leave rotation, have to do a PCR test to prove that they're not COVID positive before they come back to work. whilst you're in camp, it's quite easy to forget that there is a pandemic going on. It's quite extraordinary. When you're in your room, and especially at Samburu with these amazing views down across the valley towards Mount Kenya, you are obviously not wearing your mask, you're in this beautiful wilderness environment, you've got animals walking around, bird life, which I'll get to in a minute, with it being the migratory season. When you're also in camp, when you're eating, everyone's eating at separate tables, which is a shame because you're sort of missing out on that camaraderie of everyone swapping safari stories around the table. But it's a small price to pay for a bit of social distancing as well. We had our own vehicle, we could go wherever we wanted to go. And when you're on the vehicle, the guides continue to wear the mask, but you're wearing a mask is optional. You're outdoors, it's an open vehicle, it's fresh air. So we chose not to wear our mask during that time. And so you can almost feel for a split second, you forget everything. You forget that there's a pandemic on at the moment. And it's a really revolutionary feeling. It's a feeling that I'd almost forgotten. But I hope that we will be able to recapture in the coming months with the rollout of vaccinations worldwide. Samburu is home to some extraordinary wildlife, which is why we like to add it on after the Mara. It's home to the Special 5, the Endangered 5, or the Samburu 5, the bird life. So you have Gerenuk, giraffe-necked antelope, long-necked antelope, really cool animals, stand on their hind legs to browse off the trees. You have Grevy's zebra, the endangered zebra species, which has such fine stripes it looks almost like a barcode. You have Somali ostrich, Beza oryx, which differ to the fringe-eared oryx that we have down south. And then you have the reticulated giraffe. I think that if you asked a child to draw a giraffe, this is how they would draw it. It's got this amazing pattern, which actually looks like a net, which is where the word reticulated comes from. So we had that. The bird life around Kenya at the moment is amazing. All of the summer migrants are down here at the moment. In fact, on this trip, which was 12, 13 days long, I've recorded, I think, 210 different bird species in that time. Some real lifers in there for me as well. And what I've done is I've made a list, and I'll put it down below in the information you can download. I'll put it into a spreadsheet and you can see all the birds that I saw. Samburu is always amazing. The people are amazing, beautiful colours, the costumes, the pride that the Samburu warriors have in their culture is something to behold. So yes, Samburu, spectacular as ever, and with a little bit of rain around as well. There was a freshness, happy animals frolicking around the place. Really beautiful. From Saruni Samburu, we travelled north by road through the bush, an extraordinary drive past loads of villages, and we were heading towards the Sera Conservancy, which is a rhino conservancy. We did stop off on the way at the Reteti elephant orphanage, a wonderful organisation which rescues baby elephants that maybe have been separated from their parents, maybe they had got injured, maybe they were a little bit ill, maybe there was unfortunately a bit of a human-animal conflict. And what they do is they raise all the elephants. They've got about 50, 60 baby elephants. They're of various ages and sizes, and they put them into groups and they raise them together to create a herd, and then at age 4 or 5 they're then released into the wild. They've been going for about 6 years and they've already started to release their first elephants. So it's a really nice stop off on the way. You can watch them being fed, which is incredibly charming. And then you head off from there up to the Sera Conservancy, another hour or so further up, which is a community-owned black rhino sanctuary where you get to do rhino tracking on foot. Now, I'm putting it right up there with gorilla trekking in Uganda and Rwanda. This is a really special experience. You head out on foot from your vehicle, obviously you get quite close. There are 18 rhinos in this huge conservancy, which is about 50% of the actual carrying capacity they can have. When they started, they had 10, it's now up to 18, so they're doing a sterling job. You get quite close, about maybe 500-600 meters away from where the rhino is. They always have a tracker who is there to look after the rhinos, make sure that they are they're safe and they are in healthy order. And then you walk through with these Samburu trackers, and you can get to within 30-40 meters of a wild black rhino. Very difficult photographically because black rhino tend to keep in quite thick brush. You do have a very good view of the rhino, but you know what, the real experience is there. It's primeval. It's an amazing experience to be with these magnificent, rare creatures on foot. So yeah, we did that. We did 2 treks. We saw 2 rhinos. And it was extraordinary. We also got to see a little rhino which has had to be hand-reared as it was abandoned by its mother shortly after birth, and they've hand-reared it, and his name is Jippo, incredibly cute. And we got to go and see him. He's going to get to about 6 years old, and then he'll be released when he's big enough and he can take on the other males. So that was a really, really special experience as well. Again, the camp is owned by Ricardo and his team at Saruni. It's a beautiful camp by a seasonal riverbed, great water hole, lots of elephant, vultures, baboons coming down, lots of game around the place. So you can sit there and enjoy your time in between your trekking, and maybe get some editing done after the Masai Mara. We tend to do this after the Masai Mara. So again, exemplary COVID protocols, temperature checks being done the whole time. Really, really good. Great job, Ricardo. Thank you so much for hosting me. So after spending 3 nights in Samburu and 2 nights at the Sera Conservancy, I then flew down back into Wilson again. Wilson, then a short hop into the Masai Mara to the Okiombo airstrip and to Mara Bush Camp. This is the camp that we always use for our Masai Mara migrations during August and September. So again, I wanted to see what it was like in exactly 6 months away from when the traditional times that we go to there. As we flew in, I was looking down, vast open plains, obviously usually littered with wildebeest and zebras. But it was amazing. It's beautiful, it's lush. They've had a little bit of rain. The rains are a little bit early this year. What this means for the migration can generally be anyone's business. We tend to do migration August and September because that's our sweet spot. But February, wow, it's incredible. Vast, vast open plains, new grass coming through. The big cats were all very present and working hard. We saw the coalition of 5 cheetahs. 5 cheetahs, which is these boys have been around for 4 or 5 years. Those of you who've been on safari recently will probably have seen them. We saw a pride of lions, 3 females and about 10 cubs of various ages feeding on a hippo carcass. Now the hippo had died of natural causes, they didn't bring it down, but it was an extraordinary sighting. All this interaction going on with the cubs playing on the carcass and eating, vultures hanging around the background. You know, hyena and jackal in the distance. We spent ages there, and there were 1 or 2 other cars around. Really, really special. We found a hyena den with young hyena cubs. That was incredibly special. And again, the bird life continued. Really, really good bird sighting. So yeah, the Mara is exceptional. Mara Bush Camp, again, COVID protocols waxed. You arrive there, hand sanitizer, eating at separate tables, private vehicles. All of these things are in place to keep everybody safe. But again, when you're in your tent, and my tent was overlooking the river, and I had hippos down below, that's my soundtrack for going to sleep at night. Really, really special. I would strongly recommend the Mara at this time of year. Outside migration season, the Mara is spectacular all year round. And the rates that you're going to get at the hotel rooms and the lodge rooms is about 30 to 40% below what you're paying in the migration season as well. So you certainly get more bang for your buck. You can then pay for all those little extras like a hot air balloon ride, for example. So Masai Mara, top notch, brilliant sightings, excellent hospitality. Thank you so much to Gabby and her team for taking care of us. It really was an extraordinary time. So yeah, and then we moved on to my next destination, which I'm about to reveal. So as I promised at the beginning of this video, I've now arrived at my 4th destination. We headed back from the Masai Mara into Wilson Airport, and I decided to do a road transfer down south to here. And I am in a place called Shompole. Now, Shompole is a small reserve very close to the Tanzanian border, and it's probably not very well known to you, but I do believe it is going to become one of the top wildlife photography destinations in the world very soon. There are some very, very serious wildlife photographers who are spending a lot of time down here. I'm not going to say who they are, but if you're watching, yes, I know you're coming here. It is very, very special. It's a community conservancy where the wildlife live alongside the Maasai people here, who are semi-nomadic. In fact, there are some villages a few kilometers in that direction over there, and it is a beautiful symbiosis between the wildlife and the Maasai people here. You can go and visit the Maasai villages, which I strongly recommend. You can go walking with them, with their cattle through the bush as they go feeding as well, which is amazing, dusty photography as the herds are being brought home. But it's the wildlife down here which is so extraordinary. Here along the river, which you can see behind me, I did a fantastic bird walk. There were also colobus monkeys down there. The bird species I was already on about 140 birds and got 60 bird species here almost in one morning. So really extraordinary. Talking about birds, Shompole sits between 2 lakes of great significance. There's Lake Magadi slightly north and Lake Natron fairly south. Both of these are soda lakes. They're very, very salty. And you have huge congregations of pelicans and flamingos on both of these lakes. So I was fortunate enough to go down to the lakes and take amazing photographs. So we're going to build a bit of a hide there, I think, a bit of a blind so you can go there in the mornings and photograph flamingos and pelicans. The water's really saline, so it's almost like a mirror. So beautiful, beautiful morning light, pelicans, flamingos. Bucket list, tick off. We then the other night did a night drive here. Extraordinary. I've never seen so much on a night drive. I've done lots and lots of night drives, and you can bounce around in the darkness and not see very much at all. Maybe you'll see a hare in the distance or something like that. Here we saw so many genet, so many African wildcat, white-tailed mongoose, leopard, serval, caracal. It didn't stop. It was absolutely insane. Now, night photography is always going to be a little bit tricky. So the guys down here have got a plan. They're going to build a hide. It's going to be a lovely waterhole hide, and it's going to have the capacity for you to spend a night in the hide. So hopefully all of these nocturnal animals are going to come and drink from here. Can you imagine? Caracal, serval, genet, leopard, everything coming to drink from a waterhole at night. There's very limited water apart from the river. So when you're further away from the river where the hide is scheduled to be built, it's going to be extraordinary, I think. So keep an eye out. Remember, Shompole. Staying at Shompole, there are 6 tents here, and it is available on an exclusive use basis. So we're going to be bringing some groups down here, hosted by Charles, Sabine, Guts, Janine, and Danielle. But then if you're coming here with a family, group of friends, some fellow photographers, highly recommend booking this place because you get the whole place to yourself. So in between the days, you leave your camera gear around, you can do some editing, chill out, relax. There's a lovely pool here. So it's a really, really good add-on to the Masai Mara after. You can either transfer down here by road or you can transfer here by plane. If you come straight from the Masai Mara, it's a half-an-hour flight. Or, as I'm going to do today, you can come by helicopter. Now, the advantage of transferring by helicopter is you get to fly over those lakes with all of the flamingos and the pelicans down below you. I've seen pictures. It looks like it's pelicans on Mars, flamingos and some otherworldly environment. So I cannot wait for that. I'm going to share some photographs with you. So that's it from me. I'm going to head off in a couple of hours. This is the end of the trip. It's been amazing. I've felt safe. I've thoroughly enjoyed the wildlife. The people here are even more welcoming than they normally are. It is a beautiful, beautiful place to do. So I'm going to head off. I'm going to head towards the helicopter now and enjoy these photographs, which I'm going to share with you. And I will also mix in some photographs which were taken by our very good friend Andreas, who's our ground handler here, because he took really, really good photographs. So let's see what happens. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you on safari soon.